Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the October edition of ToolJet Community Call. This is a this is a monthly catch up that we regularly do it with our community, where we take this time to actually bring you some of the, some interesting concepts about ToolJet and how you can use it and how you can eventually build better apps with ToolJet, right? So that's the whole intention about, the community calls. And at the same time, this is also a good place for us to interact with you, to even learn more about and also address your questions. At the same time, carry your feedback from calls to the real people who are actually our product managers or engineers to enhance the product further, much better, right? So that's the whole agenda of why we do community calls, and I hope that communicates well. And today, specifically, we'll be diving into exploring some of the aspects of ToolJet, mainly about building multi-environment capable apps, which means that we'll also look through some of the key aspects of application lifecycle management, that how you actually build apps and what are the life cycles of the process in the whole process, right? So I hope we are good and we are good to go for the screen share. Okay, so as we begin, so we'll be starting with ToolJet app development lifecycle as an initial thing, and then we'll jump on to the app development environments, looking them in action, and then how you configure those environments with your specific data source and credentials. All right, and then we'll look at the workspace constants that you can leverage to set your values of those items more securely and access while you're configuring the multi-environments credentials at the same time, using those values inside the application builder. So those are the coming two sections where you have, using workspace constants in data and application builder. Okay. So keeping that, we'll also explore some aspects about how you, how ToolJet, you know, uh, what do you call it? ToolJet versioning and releasing works, right? And then at the end, we'll also look at some of the questions where you can also unmute yourself and talk about. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can use the chat box to drop your questions. And also I'll always have an eye on the chat box, and I'll try to address them as immediate as I can whenever I find them. Okay. So having said that, so I hope you're familiar with the application development in ToolJet, but just to quickly check, how many of your, first timers here have never tried ToolJet? I hope you have a little experience here, but are there any first timers to ToolJet here? Maybe you can say, in the comments. I have only a bit of experience. Should be fine. Okay, I'll set this in my mind while I communicate. Okay. Great. Great. We have one person who is actually a little unaware of these things, and that should be good so that we can be a little more elaborated. Okay. So this is the application builder for ToolJet, and what you see here in the screenshot. So these are the environments that you can set. So ToolJet runs, sets in three specific environments so that you can build apps in these three levels. One is the development. And then you have, in staging and then the production. So this is a generic thing that you usually find in the traditional application development. And the same goes on for this low code approach with ToolJet. So you can build your apps in development mode, and then you can promote it to the staging. Staging is like a pre-production, right? Before you directly send them to the production level, you just make sure that things are very good and they are they're not breaking anywhere. So that is where you make sure things with staging, and you can have use staging for your own purposes for certain levels. Yes, so right after the development you can go to staging and then to production, right? So this is how the cycle usually exists in ToolJet application development. It's all up to your choice and how you deal with these things. As we move on, we'll also see how you utilize these things. Coming up next, you can see that, right, what I was trying to say the same. As you click on this promote button here, while we go look at this in action, I'm just giving you a glimpses. So this is the application builder. You have this, environments shown, and the way how you switch from one to another is actually, promoting one. The first initial attempt is to promote one to another, and then you can actually directly switch from as a drop-down option. But as an initial thing, while you're in a specific environment, for suppose you're in development, now you wanted to promote your application to staging, right? So that's why you use the promote button here to go for the next version. Okay, so while you do that, this is the whole staging thing, how it works. So you go from development to staging, and then staging to production. So don't worry if you're looking these screenshots a little weird, but I'll take you through these things in a while, showing you how you can do this in action. Okay, so to give you a glimpses, we'll come back to this image once again, just to give you an overview of how these environments are all structured and how they work. Right, you are in the development. As you begin, you can create versions of your application. So you can go for version 1, version 2, and so on to number of versions. Right after you're in a specific version, you're good, and you wanted to promote to your application to the next level. So that is where you promote, and then that goes into staging. Right, and even in the staging environment, you can have multiple versions, as you can see here, right? So you can have multiple versions right up there. At the same time, now we are good with that. You can also promote the staging environment to production, right? So here also you can have some promote thing, and then at the same time, for any moments, you can also come back to the versions accordingly, where you can also have from one version to another. Right up there, once you're in production, that is the place where you choose to release the application. So right before production, in staging or in development, there is no way you can release your app. What I mean by release, you can think it as of a deployment, or you can think it as of a publishing your application to be accessible, right? So this is going live. So release is what I mean by going live. The application is going to be live. So you can only do it while you're in the production environment. And as you click on the button, what you have seen here, the promote one, while you get into production, this will change to release, and we'll witness that as we move forward. Okay, so okay, so there is a question on about the number of environments can be personalized. Currently, ToolJet has only a support of showing these are inbuilt. These are not defined by any users or any others. It's just by the ToolJet by itself, where we have this three environments that are set up. But yeah, currently there are 3. Customizing these things is currently not possible, but this is something I can bring it. Take it ahead to our production, to our teams, and see if that can be configured, if that can be configurable, right? And that can be explored as well. Thanks for bringing that, Mathis. I'm sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly. All right, so let's see multi-environments in action, and we'll see how you can configure those things. So you can follow up with me if needed. So you can go to app.tooljet.com. So this is where we'll be looking at our application. So this is a place generally you'll find as you log in or you sign up for your ToolJet. And then I have a couple of environments. I'm just these are workspaces, sorry. So I'm just going to my one of the other workspaces. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to go create a new application here. So while I click a new application, now you see that the app flow has been changed. Earlier we did not ask for app name, but we are doing it now. So you can just say October community call. So you can just click on create app. So this is where you'll be landing in the app builder. And once you're right up here, the one what you have seen in the slides is this one. So you can see this, right? So the development, staging, and production. So you can't, these are initially disable, which means that these are not clickable or these are not actionable. These are something, as you see, there are no versions in this environment. So you can't switch directly. So the same with the production. So in order for you to access these things, you have to promote. While you promote this application, you'll be going to the different version. So let me quickly show you with an example, like maybe I can add a table to the application. So we only have a table in it. So don't look at the functionality and everything. I'm just going to go only specific to the environments. Okay. So now imagining I'm ready with this application, right? So my app is ready. I wanted to, in development. So I'm currently in development. I'm good with my application. It has only one table. So now I wanted to go for staging, right? So how do I do it? It's just by clicking on this, promote button right up here. So promote this version to the next environment. While I click that, you should be able to find that I'm, changing. I'm going from development to staging. Okay. So, and then here's a caution that you won't be able to edit this version after you promote. So yes, you can witness that right again. So while I promote this, the moment I click on that, you should be able to find that the changes has been made. So I'm just moving from development to staging. So as you can see that the active one is staging. Okay. So what are the differences, right? So I'll come to that, because these are going to be different for each version, because the data source which is being connected behind will be changing. So before I come to there, I'm just showing you how you switch between these environments. And at the same way, you can now, you would not be able to add anything or change anything while you're in a specific, promotion. So to do that, you need to create versions. So inside a specific environment, you need to create a new version. Okay, I'm sorry that you need to only be able to do it in the development, not in the staging. For next, you can click on, promote further, which will be taking you to the production. Okay. So while you click on that, you're going from staging to production. Okay. So this is how the app flow is, right? This is how simple is it, from moving from one environment to another just by the matter of clicking buttons. And now right up there, you can see that the button is now changed from promote to release, which means that this is the place where you'll be able to publish or even deploy, or at least you're making your application live, right? So the moment I click on that, you're going to get a a dialog confirming you want to release this. And the moment I say yes, and there you go. So this application is now released. So that is why you now be able to share this application and make this public and do all of that from here. Okay. So this is how you move from one environments to other environments in ToolJet, and especially for ToolJet apps here. But then what is the difference that you're making is because now you know that generally, now you see this is going to be, you can just click and switch between environments easily. So as I click on staging, you're now in staging, and now you're in development, and all that can be changed here, right? So, but why are we doing this? The whole intention is that while you change or switch between one environment to another, the data or the data source that is behind this application can be altered, which will be done automatically. Okay. So for suppose, if I have to show you an example and how you configure that, so I can just quickly switch to one of my workspaces to show you how that is being done. Okay, maybe it is this. Yeah, this is good. So if play, I want you to pay a little close attention here. Now you see this, we are currently in production. Okay, let me go to development first and actually start you fresh. Okay, so we are right here inside an application. This is a ToolJet app, and now you have a table component, and this is the data which is coming from Postgres. So I can show you, which is up here. You see that we are getting the data from a Postgres database. So I'm just getting it from just writing a simple command or the SQL query, which is going to bring all the customers' data. Okay, if I just preview that, you should be able to see the data that is coming from the database. So we are just getting 5 customers' data, and we are presenting it in the table, right? So that is as simple as that. So we are just doing that. And you can also see that we are just getting the data and populating it inside the table. Okay. So now, given that we are in this environment, and I also wanted to look at this query panel, which has nothing to change. So I want you to remember the first name here, the customer name. It's John Doe or Jane Smith. You just remember the series. So it is John first. And now the moment I go from development to staging, okay. So while I switch from one to another, you should see there are different people here. It's Samuel and Emma, right? So how is this happen, right? So this is the whole crux of why we are having multi-environments here. So for each environment, we usually have different, data sources or the backend or the databases, all of that are set it up, because these are environments for making sure they don't break. So eventually these are more for testing purposes. So I have configured the environments in such a way, while I move from one environment to another, my data sources should be changed, because we will definitely not be having the production databases everywhere. These are the data sources that are general for the testing purposes. The same way, while I move from staging to production, you can see that, the first name is Samuel and Emma. Now that I'm moving to production, you should be able to find the data should be changing with the production data. So this data is actually production data, while the previous ones are actually nothing but these are more over testing purposes, internal databases that are connected. But if you pay some close attention, that we are not even changing anything in the query, in the query. These are going to be the always idle. So these are the same queries that are executing, but we are getting a different data, right? So how are we getting it? So that's the whole part of configuring it. Okay, but I hope it's clear so far, like how we are switching it and how the data is coming. Right after, looking after how is this happening totally. So let us go back to our presentation and just quickly jump. So this is how it's happening. While we are setting up a specific data source, there is a section, there is a place where you can actually configure credentials for each environment. So as you remember, you have development, staging, and production. These are the places where you can actually configure this credentials for each of your environments. And while you switch, the data source will also be switching accordingly. So if you move to development to staging, and the data source connections are switched to staging, and the same for the production. Okay, so now I hope this image makes sense clearly, right? We are going to switch from here to here, development to staging, and then to production. So that's how it usually happens. And then while you release, this is how the end version. Okay, so clear. So let's go ahead and see how you can actually configure these environments and how you do it. I will also use some test data. I have created some databases to show for the presentation purposes, and I hope this should be helpful. All right, let's get back to our application. Okay, so this is the application that we were using. Let me create a new one for to start freshly. So I'm going to create a community call Lifecycle. So I'm just creating it. Okay, so this is the application. We are inside. This is a fresh application. This is not the old one. And now we are here. Let me add just a table. So I'm going to recreate the app that I've shown you, how it is switching the data source and how the data is being changed, and all of that we are going to look at. Okay, I hope you are ready. So if there are questions, please drop them in the chat so that I'll have a glance before even or in between if I wanted to address them. Okay. So the first step, assuming the UI is going to be simple, because the whole functionality, what we're going to focus is about the switching between environments and configuring them. Okay. So first and the foremost thing is to go for add a new data source. The one what we're going to use is going to be Postgres. So I'm going to choose Postgres here. Let me, okay, I need to configure that. So I need to go add a new data source. And now we are here. Go for Postgres. So this is here. You can click on the Postgres SQL. Okay, so this is what we are referring to. Like you see that development, staging, and production. So this is the place where you should be able to configure different, the credentials for each environment. While you are switching inside the application, these things are going to be automatically switched, and the data will be given automatically, or the queries are being associated to the specific credentials or these environments. Okay, so for the development, I have a Notion page that I've created so that I can copy paste some of these credentials. So I'm going to use this IP India's username. I'm just configuring. So this is a instance that we have Postgres on live. I'm not going to use SSL. So this is going to be username. And I have a password. I hope this is going to be not visible. Great. Okay. So right up there, we also have a database in it. So the database name is going to be community call demo. So this is the database inside the instance that we have. And now I'm going to go test the connection first. Yes, as you can see that the connection is verified and we're good to save this. So let's also name this Postgres as a community call demo. Okay, I'm just naming it so that we can find it easily. I'm saving it again. So yeah, the development is set. We are good with the development part. You see that these are configured well and this is working fine. And let's go inside and actually get the data and configure this. I hope, no, this is not the app. So we created another app, if you remember correctly. So yeah, I think that's going to be this. Yeah, this is the app. If you remember, we were naming it Lifecycle. Okay, let's get inside. Now here, if you remember, we added a table here. So starting from fresh, what we need to do is right now you have configured the Postgres data source. So let's go forward and actually add that. So if you remember, this is the one we added, the CC demo. So this is the what we call the data source that we have just created. So click on that. And now we're gonna get get the customers from it. Okay, I'm naming the query as get customers, and this is going to be like select everything from customers. Let me quickly preview and see if that works. There you go. So I'm just getting the customers data. So if you remember the John Doe and Jane Smith, so these are I know I used it for the development environment. Okay. So and also I want to run this on application load. So I'm enabling this setting so that this thing will run whenever the app loads. So let me configure that. Click on the component and go to the data, remove it, and then you can query get customers dot data. Okay, so let me quickly run this query right from here, and then there you go, the data is configured. Okay, this is clear. We just configured it straight from setting it from the query and then presenting it inside a component. Okay. Got it. Okay. So Gabi, I have seen your question. I'll take it as we progress because it's dependent on the the table component than the environments. Okay. I've seen that. I'll address that as we move forward. So now, right now you have the data filled. So the data is coming from the development environment and you're also in the development environment. Okay. So now if you go switch to staging, okay. So I can't do it because I need to promote it, right? So while I'm going to promote this app. So from development to staging. So while I promote, so let that load. And now, okay, see that the internal server error, right? Because can you guess why? We are in staging and the app broke. It doesn't work, right? So if you guessed it correctly, the reason is we have not configured the staging environments, right? So that is the thing that the app just literally broke. It's not working, right? So in order to fix this, the way how you do it is actually configuring the staging environment values. So it's actually set in development. In staging, these are set to some default values, which doesn't work. So we need to configure these accordingly in order to set these things working, right? So the development is set. This is how you do it. So we are good with the development and it is also fully functional, right? If you go to staging, we need to set this accordingly. So I have a staging environment credentials as well. So let me bring that and paste it so that we can find it. So no port. The database name is going to be community called demo testing environment. So this is the database name and the username is going to be Postgres. Password is something I hope you can't see. Nice. So let me test it quickly. There you go. So it's verified. We are in staging. We have configured the staging thing and save it. Okay. So the staging environment data source, which I've connected here, this database also has a similar table, a similar schema, just that the data is different, right? So that's the whole intention also having these things. So let's go back to the application and let me now refresh it. So make sure, we are in staging and let me try quickly refreshing it and see how it goes. There you go. You see that the Samuel is here and Emma is here back, right? So now if I go to development, you should be able to see the data should be changing because it's switching. Whenever I switch, these things are getting switched and the data is taken accordingly. Okay. So maybe we can quickly do for the production and stop this just for your understanding. I'm doing it repetitively. So this time I'm using a Amazon RDS, an Amazon relational database, which will be quite visible here if I paste this. So no port. The database is going to be community called demo prod, and the username is going to be Postgres. So the password, test it, save it. Now if you go, okay. Now if I go for switching the environment from development to production, okay. You know why I'm unable to do it? Because I need to promote it. So these are going to be good lessons as we move forward. So I need to promote from staging to production first. So as I promote this, you should be able to find we have switched it to production now. So inside production, come on. So it's going to be reconfiguring the credentials as we switch the environments and then bring the data accordingly. Got it. So yeah, looks like there is a cloud release happening for us and that got the delay. But anyhow, we are inside and now we're up here. So you should be able to find the data for the production. There you go. So you see that this is how you configure it. And I hope you have seen it in the beginning. While we need to, check this and set it accordingly. Let me quickly take some of the questions as before we move forward. Okay, so is it going to page read automatically? I'm asking because I'm wondering how the system will behave on big data sets. Okay, so the question is based on the actual, component, which is table. So let me show you by creating a new version here. So this is how you create a new version. You just need to go to development and then, create a new version. So maybe I just say V2 and create a version. So what it does is I'm just creating a new version of the previous app so that it's controlled. So I'm making a fork from V1 and to V2. Okay, so the pagination happens from the table right here. You see that you can dynamically set the pagination. So it is how it won't happen automatically, but if the data is set to client side, it does happen automatically. But in case if it is set from server side, you would need, those actions will be called on switching the pages. So to give you glimpses, you see that there should be a enable pagination thing. So if you enable the pagination, you have two options here. One is client side and server side. So while you configure the server side accordingly, you should be able to make requests on clicking on the button of the page change. So for giving a reference, I'll go to the documentation and reference you before taking it forward. So, you see that how to use pagination for efficient data handling in tables. Okay, so these are, you can follow this document and see how you can set up the pagination, and that should be helpful for you. Okay, so while it won't affect your application by any means, just that you can switch from one page to another, and while you are switching, the requests are made and the data will be carried. Okay. Okay, there is one more question. Is there a visual graph for the versioning system to see where a specific version is during the publishing journey? Can you show some edge cases when there are conflicts between versions? Okay, so that couldn't be the case in terms of the graph and all is something currently not supported. But you can get to know the version of this place in which the environment will exist is something from the drop down itself, and then the version of it from here. Okay, this is how you switch and look into versions of a specific application. Right. So the conflict is where you move from while you're promoting, that goes off, right? But I think I need to test it clearly before I come back to you. But essentially, while you promote, that is where you come in one version to another. So, but the conflict is something that you should not expect, because in each version, while you go from one version to another and then you promote, that's how we promote a specific version, right? And that version is considered as a version which will be taken to the next environment. Okay, so that is how it works. While from one version, and that is the latest version, and you take it to the next environment will be the actual one. Right. So is that possible to add some comment to version release? Okay, so you make a git commit. Okay. Okay, there's something anticipating. We are also working on it. The thing is that currently it is not supported to add any comments. Instead, you can use our comments feature here, which you should be able to add some comments in a specific thing. But yeah, the git sync is coming. The one what Frank is asking here is actually expected to be arrived. So which means that you should be able to actually sync with GitHub itself, either from any version controls or GitLab or any of the version. You can sync between those things, and you can definitely be able to comment. But that is in the pipeline. It's coming, but it's not yet there. Right now, this is the current status. So I've seen the demo of the Git sync as well. It's almost there. right? It will be coming live, and then you should be able to sync these versions and amendments from one to another. Okay, I'll pause for a while. I'll pause the questions for a while and go to the presentation and come back. Okay. Awesome. Here we are. And I hope it got much clear for you in terms of setting these environments and then configuring them and moving forward. Right. So this is something more interesting now, because you should be able to notice that these things where you have workspace constants now. So in order for you to configure these environments from one environment, from development, staging, and to production, instead you put these things as bare and you hard code it, or you just type the credentials right away. You can actually create workspace constants, and while you configure them, you should be able to set these things and access those constants without commenting on the without using the actual data. Okay, so that's where the workspace constant comes in. Earlier we used to have workspace variables, which we are deprecating, and now we are coming with workspace constants, where you should be able to define certain values and access them during the settings of the credentials. So I hope you should be able to be if you have development and the traditional process, you usually have some workspace, some environment variables. This is similar like that, but a little different, but just giving you a context with some references. Okay, these are going to be predefined values, essentially used for tokens, secret keys, or API keys that can be used across your application to maintain consistency and facilitate easy updates. Okay, so that's the core of it. Let's see that in action. Let's get into our application and see how you can do that. So this is our application, the October community call Lifecycle. And you know that what we have done. So the development has its own credentials here. And then you go to staging and production, just like that. Okay. Now, the whole intention for me, what I'm doing is I don't want to, type this straight away, like a static text that I put here. Instead, what I wanted to do is I wanted to get this value dynamically by creating some constants, which is going to be workspace constant. So let me copy this and go to the workspace setting things. While you're in workspace settings, you should be able to find workspace constant as an option. I hope you can see that. Before I show you, maybe I'll make sure there are no sensitive information in it. While you're here, so you just need to go to the settings, workspace settings, right up there, and from here you should be able to find the option workspace constants. And once you're here, you should be able to find this. Earlier we have something in the development, but now not. So I've switched the environment, just nothing but I've switched the workspace. So earlier I was in a different workspace, now I've switched it to a different one. So now I have access. So in development, the way how you create it, you just need to click on this button, create new constant. And once you do that, you should be able to set a name to it, right? So you can just name it like a host, and then, or you can just say PG host, and then you can set the value for it. So this is the value for the PG host. Okay. So and then now you just add constant. Okay, now the constant is right there. Okay, so how you access is something that you can look at. So if the way how you do it is app.tooljet.com, and then you go to the data source of it, right? So if you just get into the data source part of it, and in the databases, while you're adding the ready PostgreSQL, you can just do like this. You can use double curly braces and say constants dot, no, it's PG host. There you go. You see that? So these are going to be dynamically filled while you set the constants in your workspace, and then you can access from here. Okay. Similarly, you can do for everything. You can set for the database name, you can set for the username and password and everything that you can create from here, and then you can access it. It's going to be similar for the staging and production as well. So for the time being, I'm just showing you only for the development thing, and you can also edit these things, and then you can also delete, and all of that is possible from here. Okay, so for if you are setting this to a different access levels, if you have these things in a different level for different users, they might not be able to edit these things and sometimes view. So you can explore that part from the groups and users for setting access, especially for the users in your workspace. Okay, so going to the presentation. So I hope now you should be able to recap these things. So yeah, now you know what I'm showing you here. for you to access the workspace constant in data source connection. So you can just use this syntax of double curly braces and start with constants dot the name of the constant that you have created. So in our case, it was PG host and it was dynamically populated. Right. So then you can also use these constants inside your application builder. What I mean by that, while you are also building your application, not just for setting the data sources, but also you can use these constants that you have created inside your application during the development process. While you are building an application, you can use a similar syntax, just the way how we are used inside the global data source setting. You can start with double curly braces and say constants dot name of the constant that you have created, which is going to be PSQL host here, and then you can use it straight away. Okay, so that's how you can just do it. But then this is something we have already covered. So the straight away approach of creating a version in ToolJet is pretty much by going to the version manager, which is in the top bar, and then as you click on that, you should be able to switch from one version to another, or even create further versions. And then I think I would not need to talk about this as well, the releasing a version, because we have just already seen how do you do it. While you get into the production, you have the button release, and then once you do it, you should be able to explore or publish your application. Okay, so with that being said, I would also want you to take you through the documentation of what we have seen so far, so that you can reference to these things right after the call or even before the recording is available to you. How do you do it? You just go search for something called multi-environment. So once you are here, you should be able to find what we have gone through. So this is how the page is here under the release management. You should be able to find the multi-environment option. So this will help you to define what these environments can be set for and how you can set, and then some using the environments, the same graph what you have seen, and yeah, how you promote from one environment to another thing, and how you configure. So all of it at one place. So I hope this will be helpful for you to explore while you move forward. At the same time, for the versioning and the release management, once you're here, you can also check out the releasing process, which we have already gone through, and at the same time, how you can release the application. Right. So this is how you can quickly release the app, and there is some caution. So if you are interested, you can also pay some close attention to this, that you should be the way how you create versions of a specific item in a released app. So once what it shows here is, while you release your application, you can actually the only way where you make changes in the production app is where you actually create a new version of it. So that's how you do it here. And then so that's being said, I hope the references are clear. Let me share these links with you in the chat. One is this, another is versioning and release. There you go. Okay, coming back to the presentation. I hope we are good with the presentation. Let's quickly check some of the questions. Okay, so there is a question about, can we release V1 after we released a V2 in a scenario to go back to previous version? Yeah, actually, look at that. So, it's all about, managing between these versions, right? So now, you have, I'm in a V2, right? So let's suppose I'm going to go for V1, and you're here. This was already promoted, right? So just in case if it was not promoted, like maybe I'll just go here to give you more clear understanding about how these things works. So let me do it. Promote test, and once you're here, you can just have it one item here, and then you can create a new version, which is going to be V2, and which is getting creating from the version V1. And while I create a new version, you're here, and in this I'm going to add another text item here, just that. So now I'm going to go back to V1. Okay, it's clear, it's gone, and now I can promote, right? That's pretty straightforward. So that's how you do it from one version to another. And yes, you can switch back from the higher version to the lower version and also promote those things. So that's how it's shown here. All right, so is there any chance you can read such constant from external sources, example vaults? Okay, so currently it's going to be pre-configured that you have to set the workspace constants, and then you can use it externally. But reading from the external sources is something currently not possible. But Yeah, it's currently its own. The workspace concept is going to be predefined. It's something you have to define and then use it. So for anything but you have a chance to change them in the settings where it will be updated everywhere that was set to. Okay, that is something that you can do, but getting from the external sources is currently not supported, but it's a good thing. We'll add that to the feedback and bring it to the product managers inside. Also, congrats on pulling this demo very professional. All right. Thank you so much. But also at the same time, I'm sorry for breaking a few things here, because if there is no breaking things, it would not be a real demo. And I hope you had some good time looking those through things as well. There was a release happening in parallel, so that was the reason there was a break. But at the same time, it's clear, but it's fully functional now. So I hope you can also try that out. You can set these things, configure accordingly, and save them. And as you switch from environments to another, it will be done. So for walls, is it on the roadmap? I can't assure you that, but this is something I can advocate around. It is something I have to explore and see how much it's something can be fitted in. But yes, I would suggest you to come to our Slack. I hope you're already in, but just in case if you're not, you can go to tooljet.com/Slack. I'm dropping it in the chat. Come, join there and actually, raise about it, and please elaborate about your use case and why do you need it and how it can be helpful for you, so that we can consider and see how review it clearly and see if that can be a potential add-on to the product. And if it is so, we're always happy to do it. So yeah, I've shared the link to join the Slack, which is tooljet.com/Slack. It's an open invitation that you can jump into a Slack workspace and drop your questions or also share your thoughts. Awesome. So stopping the screen share. Here I am. Okay. So we're good. So if there are any questions, please drop it there. But in case if you're working on these things further, and if you have any questions, as I shared you the Slack link, make sure you join it and come to general and drop your questions. And we're always there. We're super active in the Slack and always addressing any of the questions which are there. You should be able to find answers to any of your questions. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you had some good learnings about the life cycles of the ToolJet application development, and how you can configure this, and how you switch between creating versions, releasing, and at the same time exploring the constants, the workspace constants, and how you can leverage them while you are setting your environment specific credentials, at the same time using them inside the application builder. Awesome. Great learnings, and I had a really good time talking to you, and great questions. Thank you so much. I had some good learnings from you as well while doing the demo. So you'd be also finding some emails about the feedback in terms of rating the product, or also about the services at the same time. So go through that and share about your feedback and let us know your suggestions, so that we can set our next community call specific to your needs, and also improvise further and further. So do share your feedback. You should be able to find an email. So thank you so much. We'll see you in another community call, or we'll catch you up in the Slack, so you can drop a message in the general. See you again. Bye. Thank you.